Good evening and welcome to TV47 Prime. Now, tonight we are tracking down the Africa Summit, and this is day 2, and the big question remains, what does this mean for Kenya's economic future and its presence in the African market? My name is Peter Kamau. Our sign language interpreter is Rhoda Nyamai. The Africa Forward Summit in Nairobi ends with strong calls for a fairer global financial system as leaders pushed for Africa's greater voice in global decision-making. French President Emmanuel Macron led a high-level plenary discussion on the reform of the international financial architecture, focusing on debt, climate financing, and economic inclusion for developing countries.
African leaders have used the African Forward Summit platform to defend Africa's position in the global economy, saying the continent should no longer be viewed as a burden, but as a key part of the solution to global challenges.
Africa does not need privilege, but fairness. We don't need exclusion, but inclusion. We do not seek confrontation, but partnership anchored on mutual respect.
President Emmanuel Macron led the final plenary on reforming the international financial architecture, urging a fair system for the global south. Macron spotlighted Africa's pivotal role, declaring the continent essential to fixing outdated financial structures dominated by the West.
So what we stand ready to do is assist you financing that with a reworked security arrangement, which is respectful of the sovereignty of each African country.
This happening at a time when France is losing influence in some of its former West African colonies, where anti-French sentiments have been rising, and is seeking to redefine its relationship with Africa. Macron announced a $27 billion investment across Africa, even as Paris faces growing criticism over its past influence on the continent.
Peace is going to require African unity, and I really firmly believe this. And I'm delighted to see so many of my brothers here, heads of state and government from so many nations who have come to Nairobi. I know that you're all very busy, so I'm very grateful to you for making this, because it really does share this image of a united continent.
The African continent will be the powerhouse of global growth. So let us work together, let us put our energies together and move forward.
Beyond politics, France is increasingly turning to business, culture, technology and investment to maintain its relevance on the continent as competition from China, Russia and Turkey continues to grow. Leaders at the summit agreed that Africa's growing population, innovation and strategic position makes the continent a critical player in shaping the future global economy.
Forward through one of the most turbulent global moments in living memory. Africa is not waiting. Africa is moving, and Africa is leading.
The summit stands as a defining moment as the continent grapples with rapid urbanization alongside limited industrialization, bringing forth the urgency of a sustainable model of growth that secures long-term prosperity. For TV47, I'm Linda Alela.
We are now joined by our very own Stanley Nyaringita from the KICC. Nyaringita, the summit comes to an end. What can you tell us?
Well, thank you very much, Peter Kamau. This is at the Kenyatta International Convention Center. It has been an amazing and interesting 2 days. Kenya is hosting this Africa-France Summit as an English-speaking country 53 years later. And that particular history has been playing out here. A lot of interesting conversations on agriculture, artificial intelligence, the green energy, as well as health. And I'll be engaging young people because both leaders, President William Ruto as well as French President Emmanuel Macron, have talked about equipping young people with the right skills, with the right resources to ensure that the commitments that are said and have been said today actually go to them. And I'll be starting with a young lady all the way from Homa Bay, Dorcas, just to tell us, your name and who you are, and following these commitments, this 2 days, what is your takeaway?
My name is Dorcas Ayolo. I'm an aspirant and also a young leader with UDA, United Democratic Alliance, and I'm vying for Woman Rep Homa Bay County. And I can say that today and the past 2 days it has really been great, because clearly you can see that the young people are being given a platform to express themselves, which is a good thing for Africa as a whole, where they still hope for young leadership. And we've been open, the platform has been open for the young people to express themselves, which I think is a good thing. And I really want to thank the President for making this possible. This is it has been a very impactful meeting, which will go down in history, generation after generation, that at some point we had a president who gave the young people a platform that we can come and express ourselves. It's such a meeting.
But then, Dorcas, it's one thing for you as a leader and representing other leaders to be here and listening to these conversations, as well as representing these people and even engaging them. But then for the other leaders and other youth actually who are out there, do you think that they actually understand the purpose of this Africa France Summit? They're probably wondering why we even having France in these conversations.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons why we are having France, and we cannot only say it's France, because clearly we have seen that we've had 30 head of states present in this. So I can't say that this is all about France, but it's about Africa as a whole, which I think France are looking at Africa as a stepping stone to so many things that they can achieve. So to the young people outside there, I can tell them they should take part in this, in changing Africa. And just being outside there, being heard globally, that's what I can encourage the young people. And us here back at home, we should not fear. We should not fear to step in leadership. We should come out. Being a leader is not about being in the streets. It's not about mandamano and all those kind of things. These platforms are where you can come and air out your issues as young people.
Right. To finish on there, invite Alpha to engage with us on this particular conversations. Alpha, as a youth leader representing the young people, you've had the commitments here and what President William Ruto is saying, particularly on Africa, and, as well as even Kenya, depending on itself before even engaging with other global leaders. Now, bringing it home and bringing it to the young people, the sustainability of this, because it will affect them. What do you think about that?
First and foremost, my name is Alpha Mwaura. I'm a young captain of an industry. And first is to commend the leadership of our government, led by President Ruto, and also the co-host, President Macron, for this extraordinary summit. It exceeded our expectations, but we'll let them know that we'll put them to task for action. We need tangible results. So we are going beyond the ambition, we are going beyond the conferences, we are going beyond the intentions, and now we.
Thank you very much, Stanley. We're going to update you more on that a bit later on. Now, tonight, former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has dismissed the Africa Forward Summit that ends today, terminated as a political sideshow by President William Ruto to seek international legitimacy while ignoring ordinary Kenyans affected by insecurity, lack of proper medical care and education. Apollo Kamau reports.
Former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua dismissed the high-profile African Forward Summit in the nation's capital, attended by United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres and French President Emmanuel Macron, as a political sideshow by President William Ruto to cover up domestic issues at home and get international legitimacy in an event he claimed offers nothing to common Kenyans.
The African Forward Summit happening in Nairobi is just a sideshow of Mr. William Ruto to hoodwink Kenyans on the matters that affect them. But what is coming out of it is nothing for the Kenyan people.
Gachagua reporting his former boss to the UN chief and the French president as the greatest threat to the country's democracy, a violator of human rights, and a dictator for presiding over Gen Z killings and abductions while issuing diplomatic passports to warlords in South Sudan.
Unknown to Antonio Guterres and Emmanuel Macron, we won't let them know whom they are dining with. Mr. William Ruto, a man who is the greatest disrespecter of the rule of law, the greatest human rights violator, a vicious man, a callous character, a con master and a practicing dictator on internship from African dictators like Samia Suluhu, Yoweri Museveni.
Gachagua also directed his salvos to President Macron, linking him to the massive 7 billion shillings payout after the cancellation of the Rironi Mau Summit Road awarded to Chinese companies.
Mr. Macron, you are an accomplice in the 7 billion Kenya shillings theft from the people of Kenya. That is the money you have actually come to negotiate in Nairobi, not the summit that you are attending.
Gachagua will be flying out to the United Kingdom on Friday evening and later to the United States to source for his party's funds in readiness for party nominations and next year's general election.
Mr. Guterres, be informed that President William Ruto is the greatest threat to Kenyan democracy and human rights violation. Kenya has become a haven of state-sponsored goonism and political intolerance. Ahead of the 10th August 2027 polls, Kenya risks to have over 2 million goons in the streets, courtesy of William Ruto's creation.
Kamau, TV47.
Thank you, Paul, for that story. Now, 5 activists, including foreign nationals, were charged at Milimani Law Courts for breaching peace during protest against the Africa Forward Summit at KICC. The accused, including Beres Muthomi and Tracy Auma, allegedly threw stones near the University of Nairobi, citing opposition to President Emmanuel Macron's presence. Magistrate Rose Ndombi granted the group Kenya shillings 5,000 cash bail pending a May 18th mention. French President Emmanuel Macron's visit to Kenya has sparked unexpected online debate after the French leader interrupted a youth-focused cultural session and called for order. This move is now drawing both criticism and support from Africans across the world. Modoni Brenda tells us more.
And our beaches are dirty, so then...
He raised his hand requesting to interrupt the speaker during a youth-focused cultural session at the Africa Forward Summit in Nairobi on Monday.
Already? You're not waiting your turn.
I will make order.
And order he did make.
Excuse me, everybody. Hey. I'm sorry, guys. But it's impossible to speak about culture, to have people like that super inspired coming here, making a speech with such a noise.
What you have just watched has now thrust France President Emmanuel Macron into a global controversy. Reactions have since flooded social media, with Africans across the world weighing in and sharply divided over the incident.
It's nothing else but condescendence on Africans in their own country, on their own soil. I hope you can see, I hope you guys can understand. See, for those who think that France or these Westerners would ever have a win-win business or bilateral relationship with you, you are wasting your time.
Some have described the moment as disrespectful. arguing that a similar situation involving an African leader in France would likely attract stronger criticism. Others, however, have defended the visiting president, saying he was justified in attempting to restore order in a hall that had become noisy during the session. And on Tuesday, the mixed reactions could still be felt across the Africa Forward Summit at the KICC.
Yeah, that was a very tense moment, and I think it was abnormal because it's good when heads of state are speaking. It's good when you pay attention to listen what are their main achievements or what are their main goals.
I urge young people, young generation, let us be sober when such big events are happening in our country. Let us stay with decorum. Let us be sober.
According to me, I think that is political bad manners because there is this new culture in Kenya whereby young people, they're opposing everything. If you're not invited to any meeting, or rather you applied to come to this event, to listen, to learn, and to network. So why should you come and disrupt the whole event, shouting one time to you, whatever? I think that was political bad manners, and that the young people in Kenya, as the National Youth Leader UPIA Party, I'm saying that is bad manners, and our young people to be at least respectful.
Amid the controversy, the moderator Marie Lola says she was briefly confused when President Macron stood up as she was scheduled to introduce him 15 minutes later in a carefully choreographed sequence. She adds that, having worked with President Macron before, this is completely in his character, and in context it was understandable as the room was indeed noisy. The incident has also reignited discussion around some of President Emmanuel Macron's previous remarks on Africa that had sparked criticism in the past. But beyond the controversy, online debate is now largely centered on one question. Was the French president right to step in and restore order during the summit? Odhoni Brenda for TV47.
Very interesting story there. Moving on. President William Ruto and French President Emmanuel Macron have formally adopted the Nairobi Declaration, marking the close of the inaugural Africa Forward Summit at KICC Nairobi. This joint communique marks the formal end of the inaugural Africa Forward Summit, replacing decades of traditional aid with a transformative investment framework that will aid in developing the African continent. Now we'll bring you more of that story later on. In other news, President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni has officially taken the oath of office, beginning his 7th term as President of Uganda for the next 5 years. The colorful ceremony at Kololo Ceremonial Grounds in the capital Kampala attracted several heads of state and dignitaries from across the region. Saddam Bale now reports from Kampala.
For the swearing in, President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni arrived at the Kololo Ceremonial Grounds at 5 minutes to 11 Tuesday morning for his swearing-in ceremony. For the swearing-in and inauguration ceremonies. At exactly 11:50 a.m., Chief Justice Dr. Flavian Zeija administered the oath of office, officially declaring Museveni President of the Republic of Uganda for another 5-year term.
Swear in the name of the Almighty God that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the Republic of Uganda, and that I will preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution. So help me God.
The President then received the instruments of power, including the Constitution, the national flag, and the coat of arms.
The instruments of power of the Republic of Uganda. He has received the Constitution. His Excellency is now receiving the national flag.
Following the swearing-in, President Museveni, in his capacity as the Commander-in-Chief of Uganda's People Defence Forces, inspected the Guard of Honor.
Mheshimiwa Rais wa Jamhuri wa Uganda na Amiri Jeshi Mkuu, gwadi rasmi la kuapisha iliyoandaliwa na Jeshi la Ulinzi ya Wananchi wa Uganda iko tayari kwa ukaguzi wako, Mheshimiwa Rais.
After the parade has marched past in quick time, and the UPDF arms expected to join the parade.
The ceremony was marked by a 21-gun salute and military parade in review order. In his inaugural address, President Museveni described the new term as a period of no sleeping, pledging a renewed fight against corruption while emphasizing wealth creation, innovation, education, development and national stability.
We are now entering Chisanja, no more sleep. And we are entering Chisanja, no more corruption.
In downtown Kampala, members of the business community and the general public shared their expectations for the president's 7th term in office.
So let Museveni try to fight corruption. Police are really corrupt. And another issue, let him help the elderly people.
As President Museveni begins another 5-year mandate, he extends his leadership that started in 1986, making him one of Africa's longest-serving leaders. Sadam Mobale, TV47, Kampala.
From the Pearl of Africa, we come back home. The Ministry of Health has issued an enhancement of the benefit packages on Social Health Authority with major SHA insurance upgrades following public concerns over healthcare services under the scheme. The new changes will raise the cancer cover limit from 550,000 Kenya shillings to 800,000 Kenya shillings per year, while strengthening support for chronic illnesses. Susan Locho reports.
It is a relief to patients after a significant improvement was made in the healthcare services following efforts by the Social Health Authority to enhance access and quality healthcare services. According to the Ministry of Health, maternity services are now free at level 2 and 3 facilities, with SHA covering up to 10,000 shillings for normal delivery and up to 30,000 shillings for cesarean sections, including mother and newborn care. Cancer care has been strengthened, with annual treatment support increased from 550,000 shillings to 800,000 shillings, and the chronic illness fund raised from 150,000 shillings to 400,000 shillings. SHA will now cover chemotherapy at 5,500 shillings per session and radiotherapy at 3,600 shillings per session for up to 30 sessions, aimed at reducing the financial burden on patients. Advanced diagnostic services have also been included, with CT scans at 6,900 shillings, MRI at 11,000 shillings, PET scan at 53,500 shillings, and plasma PET scans at 64,200 shillings, alongside advanced treatments such as brachytherapy and SBRT. Sickle cell services have been improved, with SHA covering 70,000 shillings for red blood cells exchange and 20,000 shillings for platelet apheresis, up to 3 times per insurance period. These healthcare improvements aim to enhance access to quality treatment, reduce out-of-pocket costs for citizens, and ensure equitable healthcare services for all Kenyans. Susan Locho for TV47, Nairobi.
Azam TV, your favorite pay TV, just got even better. Effective 1st March 2026, we have added 5 amazing new TV channels to keep you entertained day and night. AMC Movies and Nolly Africa for the best of Nollywood movies and series. Music Box Hits and Music Box Dance for non-stop music hits and dance. And Manchester United TV for football fans. More movies, more music, more sports, all in one place. Face the future with confidence by acquiring additional skills that will make you competitive in the job market. Enhance your skills by undertaking professional short courses at Mount Kenya University's Center for Professional Development. These programs include Certified Human Resource Professional, Certified Public Accounts, Certified Associate in Project Management, Certified Procurement and Supply Professional, Certified Forensic Fraud Examiner, Chartered Institute for Securities and Investment, Cisco Networking, Cloud and Cybersecurity Solutions, Certified Investment and Financial Analyst. Application is through admission.mku.ac.ke or reach us on 0709 153 195 or 0709 153 194. Mount Kenya University, unlocking infinite possibilities. Tonight on Founders Battlefield.
At what point do you feel your personal brand has ever been in conflict with your corporate identity?
When we were starting out, Deacon's was one of the few Kenyan fashion businesses that had been around for 50 years, but they didn't build it around their own brands.
So if you're buying shares for the long term, Elon Musk's companies are not the place you should put your money in. I mean, look at things like even his personality. What would happen to SpaceX or to Tesla without Elon Musk?
When we went into Nigeria with a name that wasn't familiar to the average Nigerian customer we were trying to reach, and it was the social media presence that had been built organically, I would say, in Kenya by our customers that legitimized the decision to purchase in Nigeria.
Tuesday at 10 p.m. on TV47.
Welcome back. You're watching TV47 Prime. My name is Peter Kamau. Our sign interpreter is Rhoda Nyamai. Tonight, the Directorate of Criminal Investigations has linked the murder of a Nakuru-based cleric to a gang that has been terrorizing Nakuru residents. DCI says the gang has been involved in a number of criminal activities in the area, as Modhoni Brenda now reports.
The Directorate of Criminal Investigations have linked the murder of Reverend Julius Ndumia of PCEA in Nakuru to a notorious criminal gang that was first profiled in July in 2022. DCI says the criminal gang is known for carrying out violent armed robberies, while disguised in security forces attire. The firearm in question, police say, was recovered in 2024. Advanced forensic examinations, including scientific analysis aimed at placing the suspects at the crime scene, are still ongoing to build a robust case for prosecution. The same gang has also been connected to a violent robbery on the night of May 1st, 2026, during which 600,000 Kenyan shillings was transferred from a victim's bank account to mobile numbers associated with the group. Reverend Julius Ndumia Ngare was killed on the night of Sunday, May 3rd, 2026, at PCEA Tabuga Church in Nakuru North Sub-County. Ndumia was buried at his home on Monday in Tetu, Nyeri County. During his burial, family members and leaders demanded justice for the slain priest. At the Nakuru law courts, 2 suspects have been arraigned in connection with the murder. The 2, Beryl Nafula Otenyo and Felix Odinga Okumu, were arrested on the 8th and detained at Menengai police station.
The impeachment case of former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua resumes tomorrow for further highlighting of submissions. Meanwhile, the Senate has opposed attempts to reopen questions surrounding the illness claims raised during the impeachment proceedings against Gachagua, arguing that no sufficient medical evidence was presented before the chamber at the time of the hearing.
In a replying affidavit sworn on May 11, 2026,
Senate Clerk Jeremiah Nyegenye says that the Senate only recently became aware of the medical information contained in an affidavit filed by Dr. Daniel Gikonyo on April 28, 2026. Nyegenye further submitted that the Senate, sitting as a trial chamber under Articles 145 and 150 of the Constitution, had discretion to determine whether impeachment proceedings could be adjourned. He argues that it was incumbent upon Gashagua's legal team to provide convincing evidence of illness during the proceedings on October 17, 2024. According to the affidavit, the request for adjournment was based on claims that Gachagua was unwell, but the Senate maintains that the necessary medical documentation were not availed before the chamber at the material time. The Senate further describes the medical report now being relied upon as an afterthought, arguing that it cannot retrospectively cure the absence of evidence during the impeachment hearing. Nyegenye also raised questions over the inconsistencies in the medical documents presented before court. While the doctor's affidavit states that Gachagua was examined on October 17, 2024 and recommended for admission between 48 and 72 hours, the annexed hospital report allegedly shows he was discharged on November 20, 2024, suggesting a hospital stay of 31 days. The Senate argues that such a lengthy hospitalization would have been incompatible with the strict constitutional timelines governing impeachment proceedings. The affidavit further states that Gashagua's lawyers had indicated during the Senate proceedings that they would produce a medical report, but allegedly failed to do so before the conclusion of the impeachment process. In his replying affidavit, Deputy President Kithure Kindiki argues that the medical evidence introduced by Dr. Gikonyo on April 28, 2026 raises contested factual and medical issues that cannot be fairly resolved through written affidavits alone. He insists that oral cross-examination is necessary to test the authenticity, credibility, and reliability of the claims. The impeachment hearing resumes on Wednesday.
The Jubilee Party has unveiled its Olkalo parliamentary candidate in the upcoming by-election. The former ruling party now set to face Rigathi Gachagua-led DCP and UDA in the mini-poll in what has been described as a unity test for the opposition.
Tuesday morning, and the Jubilee Party announced Wilson Kigwa as its flag bearer for the upcoming Olkalau constituency by-election. The former ruling party said the decision to settle on Kigwa was a structured selection process guided by its constitution and internal organs.
Our candidate is qualified, is merited, both in representation of the people, both in academic excellence. He is present in the ground. People of Olkarau have seen his work. Please, United Opposition Partners, let us have our share.
This seat belongs to Jubilee, and we are going to be there on the ground, and we are going to pursue it until it comes back to us, because it belongs to Jubilee.
The decision came on a day DCP party officially handed over a nomination certificate to its candidate, Kamau, who will fly the party's flag in the forthcoming by-election. The former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua's DCP party insists that Nyandarua County and the Olkalau constituency are its stronghold, expressing confidence in winning the upcoming by-election.
From where I sit, I'm a resident of Nyandarua. I know the people of Nyandarua. Your issue and Jikumuhe and Meadow is a margin. It's not a win. The win is guaranteed. Senator John Meadow and Honorable Anjiko Muhea will lead the team that will campaign for our candidate.
Samuel Mushina Nyaga will fly the United Democratic Alliance UDA flag after emerging victorious in a tightly contested party nomination exercise held on Friday. Nyaga secured 3,221 votes to clinch the ticket ahead of George Wambogo Kanuri, who garnered 3,077 votes.
In other news, Kenya's education system continues to grapple with deep-rooted gender inequalities, a new report by Usawa Agenda has revealed. While access to schooling has expanded, the findings show that girls facing multiple vulnerabilities remain the most disadvantaged.
The 2026 gender report paints a stark picture. An out-of-school teenage girl is 12 times more likely to fall victim to teenage pregnancy compared to her in-school peers. At just 13 years old, 2 in 100 out-of-school girls are already mothers, with the risk rising sharply to nearly a quarter by age 16. Nationally, 1.5% of teenage girls were reported pregnant in the year preceding the study. Nairobi leads with the highest rate at 2.5%, followed by Nyanza at 2.1%, and Rift Valley at 1.8%. Return to school rates vary widely, with Nyanza recording the highest at 64.7%, while Coast lags at just 22.6%. The majority of teenage pregnancy cases occur among junior school learners at 60%. Alarmingly, 14.1% of victims are just 13 years old, while nearly a third are 17. The report highlights that girls in mixed senior schools are more than twice as likely to experience teenage pregnancy at 4.1% compared to those in girl-only schools at 1.6%. Yet mixed schools show slightly higher return to school rates after childbirth. Stigma remains the biggest barrier, cited at 45.2% of affected learners. Parental responsibilities, including the burden of fending for the baby, follow closely at 29.6%. Despite progress in expanding access, the report concludes that Kenya has not yet achieved gender transformative education.
Student leaders and human rights organizations are demanding justice following the murder of Jaramogi Oginga Odinga University student Alice Rianga, whose body was found in a thicket in Bondo. The incident has renewed concerns over rising femicide cases in the country. Sally Davida reports.
Shock and grief has gripped students at Jaramogi Oginga University of Science and Technology after the body of a second-year student who was known as Alice Rianga was discovered in a thicket in Awelo village in Bondo area days after she went missing.
Tulienda pamoja usiesi na timu yote yake ya Bondo mpaka mochari hapa Bondo. Kwa kweli tulipofika huko, mimi kama msasi mara ya kwanza nikionyeshwa huyo mtoto singeweza mtambua.
But the fact is that we have actually confirmed that my sister is no more actually. She was following me actually.
Student leaders have now expressed anger and frustration over the incident, demanding that all those connected to the murder be brought to justice.
We are sending a message to all the investigative agencies that they expedite the process of this investigation so that the truth can be known to everyone.
The great suspect, who was alleged to be the last person with Alice to be arrested and the law to take control. A Tanzanian guy who worked in gold mine around Bondo by the name Macmillan from Mwanza, Tanzania. Hawa tumetuzoea sana. Hawana maana gani comrade? Comrade power! Comrade justice!
Human rights organizations have also condemned the killing, describing it as part of the growing crisis of gender-based violence and femicide in the country.
So we request the government of Kenya to ensure that the task force report is implemented, resources to ensure that investigations are being done.
The incident has also renewed concerns over the safety of students living in off-campus residence, with students calling for increased security patrols around the university. Sally Davida, TV47.
In the heart of Laikipia County, a quiet revolution is taking root. For generations, communities have watched their land fade, grasslands thinning, rivers retreating, livelihoods hanging in the balance. Now, with support from Natural State, a powerful shift is underway. Communities are blending indigenous knowledge with modern science, working to restore degraded land, revive ecosystems, and build sustainable. TV47's Sydney Chazima reports that this is potentially not just about conservation, it's a race to reclaim the future.
Beneath vast open skies, the work begins. Women move in quiet determination. Pangas slicing through dry earth, hands pressing fragile grass into the soil. Each movement is deliberate. Each step is an act of hope. Nearby, men dig deep into the hardened ground, preparing space for trees that may outlive them. Here, restoration is not just a theory, it is survival.
Mambo ya restoration, mambo ya conservation, ni mambo mzuri sana kwa vijana kwa sababu the future belongs to we actually the leaders of tomorrow, and therefore lazima tu conserve ardhi yetu ndio iweze kutusaidia hapo mbeleni.
Ukitumia knowledge ambayo tumepata kwa communities tofauti, tumeweza kupata muundo ambayo inafanya kazi. So tunachimba shimo kubwa sana. Wakati kunanyesha ile shimo ina retain maji. Kama hakunyeshi na kuna maji tu kidogo mtu anaweza wekea, bado ile shimo ina retain maji. So miundo mingi sana ambayo tunafanya, tumeweza kuimari kutoka kwa different communities.
But across this landscape, something is changing. 2 restoration sites now hold more than 20,000 indigenous seedlings, each one a step toward recovery. Communities are not just planting trees, they are reclaiming knowledge, collecting and preserving native seeds, protecting species that hold the ecosystem together.
So kulingana na ile cluster ama ambayo ile community team ambayo tunafanya nayo kazi, tunatengeneza program ambayo ina suit hiyo specific community. So kwa mfano katika nursery tunajua cluster moja ambayo ni wakulima na wako fast ama wanaweza shika hiyo concept haraka na wafanye. So katika shamba tunafanya kazi na wao.
And the impact is spreading beyond borders. In partnership with Natural State, restoration leaders across Africa have gathered here, drawn by a simple question. Can communities lead the fight against climate change?
Our forest cover as a country is way below the constitutional requirement, below 10%. That is the science. But then what is the indigenous understanding when that forest is degraded? This is where they either get the herbs, this is where they either get the grass for the animals, this is where they find their livelihood. But then how do we link to the practice where they actually protect that ecosystem?
I learned a lot in terms of policy. I think Kenya is very rich in their policy because of the conservancy aspect that they have, which is different from our country. So I've learned really how to develop effective policy to address the key issues that we have.
This is more than training. It is a testing ground for a new kind of economy, one built not on extraction, but restoration.
Now is that beautiful point in the history of time to bring all that learning together, the indigenous, infuse it with the modern science, infuse it with indigenous knowledge from other indigenous communities around the world, right, who are also suffering or have implemented programs that are successful.
Here in Laikipia County, restoration is becoming a way of life. Knowledge is being passed on, and a new model is taking shape, one where communities are not just beneficiaries, but leaders in the fight against climate change.
As we move forward, there's an entirely new economy starting, and it's an economy that is both good for people and good for biodiversity. And we've seen many people acting in the fields that are actually degrading the environment. But with technology, with remote sensing, with AI, moving forward into the future, we're going to be able to have much cleaner environment, much better environment for people and nature.
Sydney Chazima for TV47, Laikipia County.
Thank you, Sydney, for that story. Now, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission has defended its 61.7 billion shillings budget before Parliament as scrutiny grows over funding. The Commission appeared before the National Assembly Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs. A proposed increase of more than 13 billion shillings in the Commission budget has put the Electoral Agency on the spot, with members of Parliament demanding justification for the additional expenditure ahead of the 2027 general election. IEBC is seeking to revise its budget upwards to 74.8 billion shillings from the 61.7 billion shillings it had requested in the previous budget. Cycle. IEBC, the Commission explained, plans to increase polling stations from about 46,000 in the 2022 general election to nearly 55,000 by 2027, while the numbers might grow to about 28.5 million voters, up from 22.1 million in 2022.
If you look at some of the areas that we are increasing money are the technical areas. For example, the voter registration, we are requesting that you add up around 700 million. It's because we want to hold another round of ECVR, probably December, January. And in this ECVR being the last one, we want to address all the gaps that we saw in ECVR 1. So that budget is to increase the number of clerks to the areas that we see that they are very deserving, to increase logistics and transport for purposes of registration.
There is nothing that is double allocation, because an election like ballot paper, yes, we need is a critical electoral material, but other things like the logistics, indelible inks, the clerks, all these services support the presence of that ballot paper. So if we are funded for just printing ballot papers, but we are not funded for wages to put the clerk who will issue that budget paper, the indelible ink that will mark, and all other services that are a must for us to have to conduct that election. Without any fear and doubt, we shall be able to clarify each and every item.
We now shift focus to business news. Equity Group has signed several partnerships with French organizations to boost SME financing, trade agriculture and climate resilience during the Africa Forward Summit held in Nairobi. Speaking during the summit, Equity Group Managing Director Dr. James Mwangi said the partnerships will help increase access to financing for small businesses across Africa. The agreements cover trade, finance, agricultural value chains, food security, climate-smart agriculture, and regional economic growth through collaborations with French development and research institutions.
The team in front here, we have organized ourselves under the chairmanship and leadership of Dangote and called ourselves the African Renaissance Group. We wanted to lead. If you look at equity, we have named the 4 countries that we shall be in the next couple of months, why we must lead the transformation, unless everybody will follow. We are lucky that the movement is right. The world is resetting. And in that resetting, Africa has proven to be very relevant and an indispensable partner to the global reset. Today, what we have seen is the coming together of French and African capital to unlock that opportunity. Africa is ceasing to be the risky continent to the land of opportunity, and not of the potential, but of wealth creation.
Crown Culture Africa has officially launched the Miss Universe Kenya 2026 pageant under the leadership of National Director Kevin Bellwood. Partnering with Maggie Wanjiru and former Miss Universe Kenya 2021 Roshanara Ibrahim, the franchise introduces an inclusive no-barrier era. By removing age and marital restrictions, the organization pivots toward leadership and advocacy, seeking a dignified ambassador to represent Kenya globally this July.
Today, we open a platform to young women across Kenya. This is the invitation to step forward, not because you believe that you're perfect, but because you're ready to grow.
We're not simply re-entering for participation's sake. We're positioning ourselves with a greater structure, a vision, and a global competitiveness. This comeback signals something bigger, a commitment to building a platform that nurtures talent, that creates opportunity, and that allows women to grow into influential leaders and global ambassadors.
Let's lighten things up with some sports. Young Kenyan players have experienced a difficult time in the ongoing J30 Nairobi ITF World Tennis Tour tournament taking place at the Parklands Tennis Court. Earlier today, Aum Chandarama lost to Pradesh Shelke, while Gulen Kaur Kanuja of India beat Lisa Washuka Maina in straight set, winning 6-1. Meanwhile, Sahej Rakat of the USA defeated Siena Souza Figueiredo of Mozambique, while Ente Peter Kosegi of Hungary beat Ivo Sampaio of Italy. The tournament will continue tomorrow from 9 a.m.
It's my first time in Kenya and I'm really enjoying it so far. The environment, the weather, the people, it's all great. The food is great as well. The tournament has been it's been a really good week. I've been enjoying it so far. A lot of players have been coming from all over the world to play in this tournament and I'm really happy to be playing with them and I'm enjoying it really, so far.
I truly enjoy the experience here. The country's amazing, the people are really nice. I find this tournament very competitive and all the people here are very respectful. I see it's very good that I get to play with multiple people from different countries. They're all very competitive, each are different in their own way.
The FKF Premier League title race could take another dramatic twist tomorrow when AFC Leopards face Ulinzi Stars at the Ulinzi Sports Complex. AFC Leopards head into the match knowing that maximum points are crucial as they continue their push near the top of the table. Ingwe have remained within touching distance of the league leaders, and the victory against Ulinzi Stars will strengthen their position in the title race heading into the tournament. The result could also have a major impact on rivals Gor Mahia, who are closely monitoring the battle at the summit. Ingwe's win would pile pressure on Gor Mahia in the race for the championship, while any slip-up could hand Kogalo a significant advantage in the standings.
Now it's 100, Jama. 100, ready.
The national under-17 women's football team, the Junior Starlets, have intensified their preparations ahead of their Women's World Cup qualification clash against Uganda. The two-legged qualifier will kick off on May 22nd at Fufa Stadium, Kadiba, before the return leg on May 30th at Nyayo National Stadium. The aggregate winner between the two sides will progress to the third round of the qualifiers, with the next matches scheduled for July. Mexico City is undergoing a rapid transformation 1 month before the start of the 2026 FIFA World Cup renovations of public transportation services. Murals with football themes and new infrastructures aim to improve the image of the Mexican capital before welcoming tens of thousands of fans. Among the most notable change is the renovation of the old Estadio Azteca, now called Estadio Banote, the iconic venue where the tournament's first match will be played. Football fans gathered around the Palace of Fine Arts in downtown Mexico City on Saturday to exchange Panini World Cup 2026 stickers as a genuine sticker hunt grips the country ahead of the tournament. Among the most sought-after images are Cristiano Ronaldo, Lionel Messi, and Kylian Mbappe, as well as historical legends like Diego Maradona, Hugo Sanchez, and Pele. The 2026 FIFA World Cup will begin on June 11th and will be jointly hosted by the United States, Canada, and Mexico.
Buenas tardes a toda la gente que se dio cita por aquí. Bueno, saca el equipo de los buscadores, buscadoras, la lleva la control.
And that story brings us to the end of TV47 Prime. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Peter Kamau. Our sign interpreter is Rhoda Nyamai. Have yourself a lovely night.